You are standing in the grocery store. You pick up a chocolate bar. You turn it over. You see two words on the front of the package that make you feel safe: sugar-free. So you put it in your cart. You take it home. You eat it, feeling like you made the right choice. And then, later that day or the next morning, you check your blood sugar and the number makes no sense. You did everything right. You avoided sugar. You chose the product specifically designed for people like you, and your blood sugar went up anyway. If this has happened to you, you are not imagining it. You are not doing something wrong, and you are not alone. What happened to you happens to millions of people with type 2 diabetes every single day across this country, because the words sugar-free on a food label do not mean what you think they mean. They never have, and the food industry is counting on the fact that you do not know the difference. Today we are going to change that completely. I am going to show you exactly what is hiding inside sugar-free foods that is quietly sabotaging blood sugar control in people with type 2 diabetes, the specific ingredients, the mechanisms by which they raise glucose, the label tricks that make them invisible, and exactly what to look for and what to avoid the next time you are standing in that aisle. Let me start with a story that I hear a version of constantly, because it captures the problem perfectly. Margaret is 61 years old and she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes 3 years ago. She took her diagnosis seriously. She cut regular soda and switched to diet soda. She stopped buying regular cookies and started buying the sugar-free version at the pharmacy. She replaced her regular chocolate with a sugar-free diabetic chocolate bar. She felt disciplined. She felt like she was managing her condition the right way. But her fasting glucose was not improving the way her doctor expected. Her energy was unpredictable. She was having cravings in the late morning that she could not explain. Nobody had ever told Margaret about the ingredient hidden inside almost every one of those sugar-free products she had been eating faithfully for 3 years. And once she learned what it was and what it was doing inside her body, everything made sense. That ingredient is called maltitol. Maltitol is a sugar alcohol. It is the primary sweetener used in the vast majority of sugar-free chocolates, sugar-free cookies, sugar-free candy bars, and sugar-free diabetic products sold in American pharmacies, grocery stores, and online. It tastes almost identical to sugar. It behaves almost identically to sugar in cooking and baking, and food manufacturers love it because it allows them to print sugar-free on the front of the label in bold letters, while putting an ingredient inside that raises blood sugar at roughly 60 to 80% the rate of regular table sugar. Let that land for a moment. Regular table sugar has a glycemic index of 6. Defined maltitol in its most common syrup form. The form used in most commercial sugar-free chocolates has a glycemic index of 52. You switched from regular chocolate with a glycemic index of around 52 sugar-free chocolate with a glycemic index of 52. You went from one ingredient to a virtually identical one with a different name on the label, and the package told you it was safe for diabetics. This is not a technicality. This is not a minor difference. This is the reason Margaret's blood sugar was not improving. This is the reason you may have eaten a sugar-free product and watched your glucose rise 30, 40, even 50 points afterward. The product was not lying about containing no added sugar. It was not lying in the narrow legal sense. But it was absolutely, completely misleading you about what it would do to your blood. Now let me explain the label system that makes this legal. Because understanding this is what gives you real power in that grocery store aisle. In the United States, the term sugar-free is regulated by the FDA to mean less than half a gram of sugar per serving. Sugar in this context means sucrose, regular table sugar, and its close relatives. It does not mean all carbohydrates. It does not mean all sweeteners. It does not include sugar alcohols like maltitol, sorbitol, and xylitol, even though many of these compounds raise blood sugar in a very real and measurable way. The FDA allows them to exist in a separate category on the nutrition facts label, and manufacturers are not required to explain to you what effect they will have on your glucose, and it gets worse. The term net carbs, which appears prominently on countless diabetic-friendly and low-carb products across America, is not an FDA-recognized term. It has no legal definition. It was invented by the food industry when low-carb diets became popular, and it means exactly what each individual manufacturer decides it means. The standard calculation subtracts all fiber and all sugar alcohols from the total carbohydrate count to produce a much smaller, much more appealing number. A product with 14 grams of total carbohydrates gets to call itself 3 net carbs because 11 grams worth of ingredients that the manufacturer subtracted still raise blood sugar in people with type 2 diabetes. Here is an example of how dramatic this can get. There are popular diabetic-friendly snack bars sold in American pharmacies with prominent net carb claims on the front of the package. The actual glycemic carbohydrate load, meaning the carbohydrates that will actually raise your blood sugar, is 4 to 5 times higher than the number on the front of the package. 4 to 5 times. And every single one of those bars is being purchased by people with type 2 diabetes who trust the label because the label says it is for them. Now let us talk about the second hidden danger, because maltitol is only one part of this story. There are over 100 different names that food manufacturers legally use on ingredient lists that refer to sugar or sugar-derived compounds without ever using the word sugar: maltodextrin, dextrose, glucose, syrup, soluble corn fiber, tapioca starch, inulin-modified food starch. These are not fringe ingredients hiding in obscure products. Maltodextrin, which has a glycemic index higher than table sugar, sitting between 100 and 110, appears in approximately 1 in 4 low-carb protein bars sold in the United States. It appears in sugar-free drink mixes, protein powders, and fiber supplements. It is hiding in plain sight on the ingredient list under a name that means nothing to most people and raises a red flag for almost no one, and there is a rounding loophole that multiplies the problem. The FDA allows manufacturers to round down any nutrient that falls below a certain threshold per serving. If a serving contains less than half a gram of sugar, it rounds to 0, which means a product can have real, measurable sugar in it. Divide itself into very small serving sizes and legally declares 0 grams of sugar on the label. Eat 2 or 3 servings, which is what most people actually eat, and the number you are consuming is nothing close to 0. Now let us move to the third danger, and this one is newer, more surprising, and genuinely important for people with type 2 diabetes to understand. For years, artificial sweeteners like sucralose, aspartame, and saccharin were presented as the completely safe alternative to sugar. 0 calories, 0 glycemic impact, 0 concern. The science in recent years has complicated that picture significantly. Research has found that artificial sweeteners like sucralose and saccharin can negatively impact the gut microbiome, the ecosystem of bacteria in your intestinal tract that plays a direct and documented role in insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism. When your gut microbiome is disrupted, your body becomes less efficient at managing blood sugar. The sweetener you were using to protect your blood sugar may be quietly undermining the very biological system that manages it. There is also a brain mechanism at work that is worth understanding. Your taste receptors, including sweet taste receptors that exist not just on your tongue but inside your gut itself, send signals to your brain when sweetness is detected. That signal says food with energy is arriving. Prepare insulin. When you consume an intensely sweet artificial sweetener with 0 calories, your brain fires an insulin-preparing signal. Insulin enters your bloodstream, blood sugar drops slightly, and your body responds to that drop by generating hunger and cravings, often within 30 to 60 minutes of eating the sugar-free food. This is why so many people with type 2 diabetes notice that after eating sugar-free snacks, they are hungry again faster than they expected. The product did not fill them, and the cravings that follow often lead to eating more, which defeats the entire purpose. Now here is the part of this conversation that I want to be very clear about, because this is not an all-or-nothing situation. And that balance matters. Not every sugar substitute is the same. Some of them are genuinely well suited for people with type 2 diabetes when used in appropriate amounts. Stevia, a plant-derived sweetener whose active compounds are barely absorbed by the body, has a glycemic index of essentially 0 and consistent research backing its safety for blood sugar management. Monk fruit extract behaves similarly. Pure erythritol has a glycemic index of 0 and is absorbed and excreted by the body without being metabolized in a way that raises glucose. The problem is not sweeteners as a category. The problem is that the products marketed most aggressively to diabetics, the sugar-free chocolates at the pharmacy checkout, the diabetic cookies in the specialty aisle, the low-carb snack bars with the prominent net carb claims are almost universally sweetened with maltitol, sorbitol, and other sugar alcohols that have real and significant glycemic impact. While the products sweetened with stevia and erythritol require you to search for them and read the label carefully to identify them. So let me give you the practical framework that changes everything, the exact rules that protect you every single time you pick up a product. Rule number 1, ignore the front of the package entirely. Sugar-free, diabetic-friendly, low-carb, keto-approved, no added sugar. None of these phrases tell you anything useful about how the product will affect your blood sugar. They are marketing language. The information you need is on the back, in the ingredient list. Rule number 2, find a sweetener before you eat the product. Scroll through the ingredient list specifically looking for the sweetener or sweeteners used. If you see maltitol, sorbitol, or maltodextrin, treat that product the way you would treat a regular sugar product. The glycemic impact is too similar to ignore. If you see erythritol, stevia, or monk fruit as the primary sweetener, those are genuinely low-impact options. Rule number 3, look at total carbohydrates, not net carbs. Net carbs is a number the manufacturer calculated using a formula designed to make their product look favorable. Total carbohydrates is the FDA-regulated number. For people with type 2 diabetes using blood sugar monitoring, total carbohydrates is the number that actually predicts what will happen to your glucose. Rule number 4, watch your serving size before you calculate anything. If the serving size listed is 2 cookies and you eat 6, every number on that label triples. Manufacturers choose serving sizes strategically. A product with a 2-cookie serving size at 8 grams of carbohydrates per serving is actually 24 grams of carbohydrates, for the amount most people actually eat, which is a significant blood sugar event for someone with type 2 diabetes. Rule number 5, test your own response. Your body is the most accurate instrument available to you. If you have a glucose meter and you are curious about how a specific sugar-free product affects you, test before eating and test 90 minutes after. The number will tell you everything that label could never tell you honestly. People who do this consistently often discover that their supposedly safe sugar-free products are producing blood sugar responses nearly identical to the regular versions, and that knowledge is irreplaceable. Here is what I want to leave you with, because this is the bigger picture that ties everything together. The sugar-free label was supposed to be a tool that helped people with type 2 diabetes make safer choices. Instead, it became a marketing category that gives food companies permission to use ingredients with nearly the same glycemic impact as sugar under names that most people cannot identify, inside products with serving sizes that obscure the true carbohydrate load, with a 3-word claim on the front that provides a false sense of security to the exact people who are most vulnerable to its consequences. Margaret's story is not unusual. It is the story of millions of Americans with type 2 diabetes who are doing everything they have been told to do, and whose blood sugar management is being undermined not by their choices, but by the deliberate gap between what sugar-free means on a label and what it actually means for their body. You now know the difference. You know which sweeteners to look for and which to avoid. You know that net carbs is a number someone invented and not a number you should trust. You know that the front of the package is designed to sell and the back of the package is where the truth lives. That knowledge does not require buying different food, spending more money, or following a complicated plan. It requires 10 seconds of label reading that is now completely in your control, and that is the difference between a label that traps you and a label that cannot fool you anymore. If this video finally explains something that has been frustrating you for a long time, share it with someone managing type 2 diabetes who deserves to know the truth. And subscribe to Wellness Over Time, because next week we are going to go deeper into exactly which breakfast combinations keep blood sugar stable throughout the day and which ones that look healthier silently, spiking your glucose before 10 in the morning.